2025 is almost over, and Nintendo has had quite the year, from the launch of the Switch 2 to the many, many controversies that have plagued the company this year. I figured I'd make a video just kind of recapping all of it into one nice little package. So let's begin right where it all started, I suppose. It was about 2 weeks after 2025 began where Nintendo finally revealed the Nintendo Switch 2, and that was the first time we actually knew that we were getting the official successor to the Nintendo Switch, the console that, has sold over 150 million consoles, and it really needed to be replaced at some point because, goddamn, the Switch 1's hardware was super duper outdated at the beginning of 2025. So, yeah, we were all extremely excited when the Switch 2 was announced. I know there was, I feel like some of it was mixed, but the vast majority of people were excited for the Switch 2 upgrade because, again, you're coming from a console with 150 million sold, and you're getting something better with it. You're keeping the same branding. Didn't look like a Wii U situation at all because Nintendo figured it looked like Nintendo had actually learned their lesson from branding the Wii U as some sort of like add-on to the Wii. But Nintendo, again, branded it accordingly, and people were hyped. I mean, I was hyped for the next 2.5 months waiting for the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and oh boy, that was a roller coaster and a half. In fact, Nintendo actually hosted a Direct about a week before that, where they kind of went over Nintendo Switch 1 games, and they announced Tomodachi Life. Has no bearing on the Switch 2's life, but you know what? Figured I'd mention it here. But yeah, we got 2 Nintendo Directs in 1 week, which is, again, unbelievable. I cannot believe that we got that. That will never happen again. Literally, that will never, ever happen again. So, yeah, the April 2nd Nintendo Switch 2 Direct happens, and we are all over the moon. We get Mario Kart World, we get Donkey Kong Bonanza, we get Kirby Air Riders, we get to see that Nintendo is making a 4K console, which I don't know if people were expecting, but I mean, I sure as hell wasn't. I know Nintendo, they don't do stuff where, they didn't want to, they made a statement. They said that they don't want to get into a graphics war where they're trying to make the beefiest console rather than, instead of innovating, they're just going for power, which has never been what Nintendo's done, but this is exactly what Nintendo has done. There is some Nintendo magic with the Switch 2, but it's really not as noticeable as it was from past generations. So this was a beefy upgrade compared to the Switch 1, where you're getting 4K resolution, and the console is going to run at a very stable 60 FPS. You're going to get Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games. Some games are going to get upgrades, like Pokemon Scarlet is going to get Pokemon Scarlet/Violet being a notable example, where that game ran at like a crappy 30 FPS on Switch 1. On Switch 2, 60 FPS standard. Play through the entire game and it runs perfectly. So we were extremely excited after the Switch 2 Direct. And then the prices dropped. $700 for the Switch 2 here in Canada. It was about $500 with the Mario Kart World bundle. That is an unbelievably high price for a console that, for the sequel of a console that was, what, $300? That, again, unbelievably high, and people were not happy. And the biggest thing that people were not happy about was the game prices. $70 for Donkey Kong Bonanza and $80 for Mario Kart World. That was a huge killer for any sort of momentum, any sort of hype that Nintendo was trying to generate around their console. Of course, we were still excited, but like, we were kind of seeing where Nintendo's priorities were, and it gave us a glimpse of what the rest of the year was gonna look like. It really, really was not ideal. And then again, even more bad news on top of the prices for Switch 2 were the tariffs. Now, I'm not gonna get political in this video, I refuse to, but I think we can all generally agree that the tariffs were a negative for the prices, given that we were all complaining about the price. Tariffs coming and hopefully, or maybe even increasing the price, would not have gone over well whatsoever. But thankfully, when all was said and done, the Switch 2 remained at its price, and pre-orders got delayed. I remember April 9th they were supposed to start, and then I think they were like 2 weeks away. And of course, we spent a long time complaining about the Nintendo Switch 2. We were all sitting there pre-ordering it on that day, bro. We were all sitting there pre-ordering that thing on the day. And your boy was able to get a Pro Controller, and then the next day managed to get to GameStop and get my own pre-order, and I was very, very excited. Now, the next 2 months were a little bit quieter in terms of that, but we will skip right to the launch day, June 5th, 2025, a new beginnings, a new horizons for the Nintendo Switch 2, and Nintendo as a whole. We were very, very excited to see what Nintendo would have in store for the rest of the year and even beyond. So, the Switch 2 comes out and it sells, what, 3 million consoles in 2 days? I don't even know. It was something unbelievable like that. It was ridiculous how much the Switch 2 sold in its first, few days on the market. And, honestly, I didn't see too much negativity. I was going through a bit of a phase where I was like, this is my first console launch and I have the thing on day one. Like my first midnight launch as well. I was hooked, bro. I was going through all freaking stages of getting a product and just obsessing over it. I was so over the moon. It got to the point where I made a video on Mario Kart World calling it a masterpiece. And I deeply regret not taking a little bit more time because the game is indeed not a masterpiece. We'll get into that later on. So, yeah, the console comes out and it absolutely destroys any sort of record that was before it. It's the best-selling console at launch in history, literally in history. It's ridiculous, man. It was ridiculous. So yeah, Mario Kart World comes out and the game's decent. It's not like it could have been better, really. It came out without 200cc. Without a lot of the features that people were hoping it would come with. Like a lot of the characters, we were anticipating more characters outside of the Mario franchise. We ended up with none, literally none. They even took out the goddamn Miis, bro, which is, I'm so sad about that. I love the Miis. But yeah, the Mario Kart World was, you know what? It was fun for the first 10 hours, but you were hoping that there was something else was going to come soon. And thankfully, we didn't have to wait long. About a month and a half later, we finally got the Switch 2's killer app, the Game of the Year candidate, Donkey Kong Bonanza. And that, you know what, may have saved the year for Nintendo. To be completely and utterly honest with you, if we don't have Donkey Kong Bonanza, I don't know what on earth we're gonna get. I don't know how the Switch 2 is gonna perform, to be honest with you. I know Bonanza didn't inherently sell very well. I think it sold 3 million. Compared to Mario Kart World sold, 3 times more? It was insane. But you know what? Donkey Kong Bonanza was Game of the Year candidate. It's a really, really good game. It is a game that you would buy the console for. To be completely honest with you, it is a game you'd buy the console for. So Nintendo finally had a bit of a 1-2 punch with Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza. And you know, it's not the greatest. I mean, in the first year of the Switch 1's launch, you had Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and then you had Mario Odyssey. You had Splatoon 2 as well. Like, those are huge games. And I know Nintendo was in a bit of a different situation back in 2017. They kind of needed to put that much out. But really, if you compare the Switch 1's initial launch year to the Switch 2's, it's not even close. The Switch 1 outperforms, and just in terms of quality, in terms of quantity, in terms of everything, the Switch 1 absolutely cooked in its first year. The Switch 2, it wasn't the best. It really wasn't the best. But we continue on to, I think the next biggest release would probably be Pokemon Legends ZA, which, you know what, sold really well. To my knowledge, it sold really well, but again, it was on the Switch 1 as well. And the Switch 2 editions, that is the new Wii U port from, you know, how the Switch 1 had a bunch of Wii U ports. The Switch 2 edition is going to be the new thing, and I really do not like it. I really do not like it, because Nintendo's using Switch 2 editions as a bit of filler for when there's game droughts or whatever. But again, Pokemon Legends ZA comes out and people were dunking on the graphics again. And you know what, to be completely honest with you, I had got Scarlet about a month before it came out, before ZA came out, and I really enjoyed the game. The graphics were not the best. For Scarlet, it was good. It was good because that game came out like, what, 3 or 4 years ago. Legend ZA looked nearly identical to Scarlet/Violet in terms of like its engine, in terms of the Pokemon, in terms of the world, everything. Like it just, the style as well, it just all looked the same. And it's really unfortunate because I was hoping that that would be like a huge thing. Now, I know this isn't part of the first year recap or whatever, but I know Pokemon Wind and Waves is coming out, or the next generation, Gen 10 is coming out next year, and it will be a Switch 2 exclusive, so we won't have to worry about the Switch 1 being a factor here, holding the Switch 2 back. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for with the Switch 2 generation, is that games come out only for the Switch 2. Not that I want to alienate the Switch 1 player base, but if games are being made with the Switch 1 in mind, it's going to be the dominant focus rather than the Switch 2. The new hardware is going to be kind of put on the back burner, and that's not what the people that spent, 700 Canadian dollars want with their purchase. You want games that are tailor-made for the Switch 2, that utilize the full capabilities of the console. And Nintendo is hopefully going to be doing that more in 2026. We've still got, what, half a year? We're only half a year into the first year of the Switch 2, but it's not looking super duper crazy in terms of software lineup. But again, we move on. Pokemon Legends ZA sells very well, and then we move on to, I believe it was the Hyrule Warriors game. I forgot the actual, or is it Age of Imprisonment? I think that's the name of it. Literally, it was a talking point for a day. I don't remember anyone really talking about it too much. Not to say that it's not a great game. Far from it. I'm sure that it's a great game, but it's not that killer app that Nintendo was hoping for. It really wasn't what you kind of need in your first year of launch. And if it's not Hyrule Warriors, you need to have something else. And the next game comes out only a few weeks later, Kirby Air Riders, one of the most interesting Switch 2 games to date. It surprised me a lot because it's not a conventional kart racer. It's not like Mario Kart World. A lot of people were comparing it. I know my last video was comparing Cross Worlds to Mario Kart World. And some people, I got a few comments talking about how I didn't include Kirby Air Riders. And the reason I didn't do that was simply because the games are so different, really. Kirby Air Riders, you don't actually have to, there's no items. You have to get like copy abilities and whatnot, and the game just runs, and the controls are completely different. The gameplay, the mechanics, completely different compared to World and Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. But I feel like that's a net positive. And, I will say, if I had to pick a highlight from the year of a game that was really, really something that like a breath of fresh air almost, it would be Kirby Air Riders. And the reason why is because Sakurai developed it. He developed it, came out and said, hey, we're not doing DLC. This is the finished package. We're done. This is the package. And I went out on day one and I bought the thing because I support the idea of Nintendo making a game and not having to finish it later, because Nintendo's been doing these updates where you're kind of like, where they, 50% of the game's done, and then they add the other 50% through DLC and free updates. I've always hated that model, and the fact that we got a full, complete game in the year 2025 was absolutely amazing. Really, I really enjoyed that. And I haven't played too much of Kirby Air Riders. I definitely gotta play it a lot more, but I am, again, very happy with the fact that that game was complete on launch. And that isn't something that Mario Kart World can say, or even, I guess, Donkey Kong Bonanza, because that thing got DLC, but forgot the Nintendo Direct. Ladies and gents, Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, that was a huge pivotal moment in the Switch 2's first, I guess, in the 2025 year for the Switch 2. Nintendo priced those games $50 a piece for $100 here in Canada, or you can buy them for $55 separate. And that is ridiculous for two remastered Wii games. And Nintendo, that has kind of been the theme of this year for Nintendo, is greed. Just greed. It doesn't make much sense to me why they have decided to go down that route. Mario Kart World not being toned back on that $80 price tag really shows you where Nintendo's priorities are. And my hope for the Switch 2 was that people were going to, I mean, obviously buy it, but also enjoy it. It was going to be Nintendo carrying on from the success that the Switch 1 had. And the Switch 2 really did not deliver on the latter. People bought it, but people are not enjoying it. Does that make sense? Because, like, I mean, I'm enjoying my Switch 2. I'm not saying there's no redeeming qualities, but the negativity and the overall pushback that the community gave at launch and even well into the year was eye-opening. I've never seen people get that riled up over Nintendo's decisions before, and I was around during the Wii U era, bro. It was ridiculous, man. It was ridiculous. But yeah, people were super on Nintendo the entire year for the Switch 2, and that was, again, one of the things I was hoping that wouldn't happen. But they deserve it. Absolutely, unequivocally. They're doing things that are extremely anti-consumer. Like, one thing with even this game, Mario Kart World, is they made it so the lap type tracks would not play, or I mean, the intermission tracks would be more frequent than the standard lap type. Against all community wishes, I saw so many people, so many like huge Nintendo creators just talking about and crapping on this update. There's usually some people that defend Nintendo during stuff like this. I saw nobody on the side of defending Nintendo, and that was unbelievable to me. And that's why I'm super conflicted on this year. We got a lot of great games. We got a lot of great moments. I'm going to cherish this year for the rest of my life in terms of gaming and just everything, man. It was a great year in that regard. But in terms of like community relations that Nintendo, it's been awful. It's been abysmal for them, and I don't think we're ever gonna have a year like that again. Now let's talk about the future, because again, the future is the most important part. We've already lived through all this, and you know what? It's not all doom and gloom with the Switch 2. There's a lot to look forward to, and we are gonna have to see what Nintendo does, how they play their cards, how they, I guess, navigate the again, evolving marketing conditions with the RAM shortage. Are they gonna have to increase the price? How is that gonna go over in the community? Are we going to have to deal with another like huge controversy with the Switch 2? Who even knows? But this year has been quite a catastrophically decent year for Nintendo, and I feel like that might be the best way to describe everything that's gone on this year. I'm hopeful for next year, but again, we'll have to see what Nintendo does. Let me know what you guys thought about Nintendo's 2025 and the Switch 2 and everything in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.